We've made a significant offer to Pete. Personally, this has been an exhausting conversation and negotiation. I mean, Soto was tough. This is worse.
All right, breaking down the Pete Alonso Mets free agent situation. We are on Sunday, January 26th, and as of right now, Pete Alonso still unsigned, not only with the Mets, no team, period. And really, at this point, nobody's even showing interest. Now, the latest development in this situation was the Mets Fan Fest, Fan Day, where everybody turned up at Citi, and David Stearns, Steve Cohen, and Carlos Mendoza were all on a panel to discuss all things Mets. And that's when the fans broke out chanting, "We want Pete, we want Alonso." And Steve Cohen, the benevolent Steve Cohen, King Cohen, the head of the Church of Cohentology, nipped that shit in the bud real quick and said, all right, we're not doing this. You can chant at the end, but here's the deal. And he laid it out in a way that has almost completely flipped my opinion on the entire Mets Pete Alonso situation. Cohen being completely transparent and completely honest about it, the articulate businessman that he is, said, I'm exhausted. I'm getting sick of this. He said the Juan Soto negotiation was tough. This one's worse. Imagine a $765 million negotiation that lingered for months, where you had everybody coming at you. You had Boras, you had the Yankees, you had mystery teams, Toronto. Money just through the roof. Everybody hitting each other's bids. We've got campaigning and everything going on. All of that. Not as bad as this Pete Alonso situation, which honestly should be done by now. Because Pete Alonso not signing with the Mets would be insane. I do believe the Mets need a bat. I do believe they need somebody they need as much protection for Juan Soto as they can get. Pete Alonso is a guy who has declined every single year after his monster rookie season with the juice balls, 53 home runs, set the rookie record. Everybody thought he was going to be this $300 million man, and every single year he just kind of declines from 50 to 40 to 35. And so there's really no reason to believe he's not going to continue to decline. He's probably going to be a 30 home run hitter, eventually a 28 home run hitter. He is not a Juan Soto type. What he is, though, is still a power bat that can pop a ball every now and then, and he is a guy with this new reputation from this past October. And those things do matter. At the end of the day, this is about money and performance and building a long-term winning machine, and so you don't overpay for old declining players. But there is an element to your fan base being happy. There is an element to postseason heroics. There is a little bit of an intangible element to all signings. And I do believe at the end of the day, intangibles are far less than intangibles, but they don't completely not matter. And so this is a guy who the fans want, who we need in some capacity, and apparently, according to Steve Cohen, just will not budge. So he says they made a fair offer. He said everything they're putting in front of us is not good for us. The term he used was, it's all asymmetrical. I don't know what the fuck that means. I mean, I know what asymmetrical means. I don't quite understand what it means in this context, but I do know that it means it's not good for the Mets. And him being completely honest, and you could tell the way he was talking was like, listen, I'm sick of this shit. We're trying our best to be fair here, but these guys are fucking assholes. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is Boras being a complete prick, and Pete, who right now has taken the biggest dose, the biggest serving of humble pie I have ever seen. And his world must be rocked right now. Like he doesn't even know which way is up. When you come in the league and you set the rookie record, you hit 53 bombs, people are talking like you're just as good as Aaron Judge, and then you just never reach that level. You never make it back to that level of production. Everything continues to decline. And then you're like, you get the offer, 158 over 7. In hindsight, you absolutely should have took it. But when you have Boras in your ear, who's a fucking scumbag, and I can't believe people haven't figured that out yet, telling you that you're a $200 million plus guy, don't worry. And then you can't even get like a $90 million contract. That has got to be debilitating. I mean, that guy, he doesn't know what planet he's on right now. So it makes me think you're not thinking clearly. At this point, Scott Boras, the one-time famed super agent, he's garbage, dude. Unless you are the creme de la creme, the top of the top, and you're going to get your money, and he's there to just like pick up the phone here, pick up the phone there, and just put these guys against each other. He can do that. I could fucking do that, though. When it comes to like getting the most for a guy who's kind of like borderline, he's terrible. He has multiple clients now over the past few years that go into the regular season not having a contract, needing to eventually bite the bullet or bet on themselves with a one-year deal. And I don't know why people still think of him as this super agent that's like going to get you your top dollar. He's going to tell you what you want to hear. Because whatever's, if Scott Boras doesn't make a cut off of Pete Alonso at the end of the day, not a big deal. If he can somehow snake someone into overpaying for him, that's a good deal for him. That's all he gives a fuck about. And at this point, I once was saying the Mets needs to just do the right thing, give it to you. He's one of our guys, make the fans happy. And now I turn just on that one soundbite alone, which I know, maybe now that's PR propaganda, but it seems like a very honest assessment from Steve Cohen being like, we're trying, and these fucking assholes are not even, cooperating a little bit. Sounds like, to be honest, it's almost done. I thought a couple weeks ago when they said, we're moving on to plan B, that was still just posturing. Sounds like they might be like, we're finished with this. Now, as for Pete Alonso, bro, sign the contract. What is it, 375, 370? Sign the contract. I understand that you're coming from over here. I'm going to be a $300 million player. I'm going to hit 500 home runs. I'm going to be a Hall of Famer. And then in a matter of like 4 years, you're like, I'm just like a player in Major League Baseball. And I understand that shift in mindset is probably one that he has not accepted yet. But bro, you have to accept that reality. And then understand that your reality is still pretty fucking awesome. 99.9% of players in the league, if I said to you, you want to make $25 million and go play for Steve Cohen on the New York Mets, this up-and-coming franchise that's going to spend money, and you're going to have the best perks and the best amenities, and you get to play in New York City, and you already have this fan base lore, they would be like, sign me the fuck up. So somebody has got to talk some sense into him, whether it's his wife, his friends, his family, somebody. It does not sound like he has a team around him that gives him honest advice. And as we all know, Pete Alonso, not the most self-aware guy of all time. I think that's one of his Achilles heels, and I think that's also part of the problem here is I don't think he's exactly beloved by his teammates. I don't think he's like an enemy by any means, like a clubhouse cancer, we got to get rid of him, but I think he's a little bit goofy. I think he thought he was the shit. He does those corny things, those little bits, the jokes, the pumpkins, the belt. I think he had once, Donnie Stevenson. It's just like, I could see other guys being like, this guy, So that's another element too. Like if Lindor and Soto and all these guys are like, we don't really like that dude, then don't fuck with it. You don't want to mess up a good thing if the rest of the team doesn't like him. But if it's all the same and, they played with him already, they had this magical season with him already, I'm sure everyone can figure out their differences. And you need a bat to protect him. Pete, here's the deal, bro. You can get $25 million a year, play in New York, like I said, and you still maintain everything you worked for. If Pete Alonso goes to fucking Toronto right now, everything he once did, out the window. Because Toronto fans don't give a fuck that you broke the rookie record and came up in what, 2019 or whatever it was, hit 53 home runs, 35 of them were like seventh inning or later, clutch home runs, game-winning home runs. I remember being like, this guy is Paul Bunyan. We finally found our guy. Now, it didn't become that, but it still became something that fans will remember forever, and particularly this past postseason run. One of the biggest home runs in baseball history belongs to Pete Alonso. But it goes out the window if you leave that franchise. Because if you go to fucking Toronto, Blue Jays fans don't give a shit about your 3-run home run against the Brewers in the play-in games. The Mets fans will remember that forever. But if you're gone, we're like, all right, on to the next one. So the new fans don't give a shit about it. The old fans forget about it, and you're left with nothing. Right now, you are this hero. At least you have this heroic postseason run that was clutch and amazing with multiple big home runs and hits, and you were a part of this unforgettable season that you can build on. That's the kind of shit that you have a whole lifetime afterwards. No, not even exaggerating. Like beyond playing on the field. This is the sort of shit you go back to all the fan events. You go to the Fan Fest. You go to the Old Timers Day. You go on the broadcast. You can become a part of SNY. He's pretty unbearable on camera and has a weird personality he's very unself-aware about. But if you keep your Mets status, you become one of those guys. You're the next Keith Hernandez, Nobody's like Keith, but you understand what I'm saying. That by signing elsewhere, all of that just goes away. So you have a chance to make more money than 99.999% of the entire world who's ever lived will make. Far more. Hundreds and thousands of times more. I understand within the baseball world, it's peanuts and you're getting underpaid and you think that it's a fucked up negotiation. I get all that. But in terms of just think about your happiness, Pete Alonso, you're going to go to Toronto to be irrelevant for the next couple years and compete against Vlad, by the way, for playing time and whatnot, and not win and live in a different country with a fan base that does not revere you as the Mets fans do. And rightfully so. The Toronto fans would be like, I don't know, he's all right. He's like a, corner infielder who's got like some pop, but doesn't hit for average and kind of struggles with runners in scoring position. You'll get that sort of love. You come to New York, you're getting a standing ovation on opening day. You're getting fans who love you, who chant your name, your nickname, your whole persona came up here. And you're going to turn that away. And if the other team came by with like a 5-year, $130 million, fine. That I get. But if you're talking about it's all the same and you're going to leave all of that to go play for the Blue Jays or fucking whoever, the Angels, the Rockies, all these teams that don't fucking matter. To me, that is insane. And I get it that it's easy to spend another man's money and sign another man's contract. I also understand that, there are probably more things at play right now. Maybe he knows that the clubhouse doesn't like him. Maybe Cohen and Stearns have been, pretty disrespectful in some of their negotiations. Maybe there are sometimes these things happen where the bridge is burned. There's no going back. If that's not the case, though, and it really is just like, hey, here's our best offer. Take it or leave it. Take it, dude. Take it. Sometimes in life doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. And you can continue to hold on to this dream that doesn't exist and stamp your feet that, things didn't go your way for one reason or another. Maybe you're mad at yourself that you didn't perform. Maybe you're mad at the team. Maybe you're mad at the front office. I'm sure it's a mix of all of it. But you can bury your head in the sand and, throw a temper tantrum about it and continue to just demand money that nobody in the world is offering you. Or go back to a place where you have history and love rather than just go fade into obscurity, fade into oblivion. So I know what I would do, I get it. It's not easy, but man, what is sitting in front of you ain't too shabby. You just signed one of the best players on earth. You just proved to the world that you can hang with the cream of the crop in the NL. I mean, granted, we're all playing for second place against the Dodgers, but still, your life won't be that bad, dude. And I know at some point, ego makes you want to just be like, fuck it, I'll go somewhere else. And I get if you've reached a point where it's untenable and you can't even look at their faces, and you certainly can't be the guy who's putting money in their pocket because of the way they handle this. I understand that. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But if it is still coin flip, I don't know, and you're just dragging this out, brother, come on home. Come back to a place where we love you. Because you ain't going to get that anywhere else. You're not going to get the money or the love anywhere else. So what the fuck are you doing? It's cutting off your nose to spite your face. Because right now you might think you're sticking it to them. You might think, as a man, I got to do this, or, it's all about money, or it's all about, respect. But there's going to come a day, a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, you are sitting in Toronto on the bench with the Blue Jays, while the Mets are hopefully making a run, having fun again. Steve spending money, everything's going good in Queens, and you're going to look around going, what the fuck did I do this for? You're making decisions right now based on heated negotiations, based on a bruised ego, based on all emotion. And that's when you make your worst decisions, because there's going to come a time, and quickly, within a couple years, you're going to be like, what did I do this for? Because I could have had similar money, and I could have gone back where they love me, but I chose to be, brash about it. I chose to puff my chest up and tell them no, and whatever makes you sleep at night right now is what's going to keep you up at night a couple years from now. So if the contract's still there, although, it sounds like Stearns and Steve are ready to just be done with it. And the fact that the entire rest of the Major League Baseball seems to be done with it too is very telling. But keep the fans happy, keep some level of decorum and reputation and things that matter a little bit with veterans and homegrown talent. If it's still there, do it, dude. Come home. On the Mets side of things, I think they're playing with a little bit of fire too. I mean, obviously, the entire rest of Major League Baseball being aligned with their thinking is very telling, whether that's from a production point of view, prediction point of view, analyst stats, personality. They understand what Pete is. They know what type of player is, things that, the fans necessarily don't see. Everyone seems to be in agreement he's not worth a lot of money and he's not worth a lot of years. So, I think Stearns and Cohen, their radar is correct on this one because no one else swooped in being like, we'll take him. However, the Mets are not a complete team. They are not really in a position, and almost to this point as a franchise never have been in a position, to turn down between 30 and 40 home runs. Again, Pete has regressed like every year. At some point, he really won't be that slugger. But right now, I think you're still getting 30 to 40 home runs. And that's something this team needs. Especially if I guess we can just play in a fantasy land where we're all going to be able to try to pick off the Dodgers. But if you're going to go up against the Dodgers, you need every little bit you can get. And if they lose Pete Alonso, now you're talking Vientos goes to first base. Well, first base is kind of that spot where you put players who are DHs and outfielders are going to no longer outfield and catchers are going to no longer catch because, whatever. But that's not good. That's not ideal. And Vientos is a guy who he hit so well in the postseason and did it with so much confidence and swagger and had a good season that I think you're like set to say that guy's going to be a really solid star. Like he's going to be a star. He's going to be a contributor. But you don't know that for sure. You have sophomore slumps. You have regressions. You have there's a million things that can happen. And now you're playing out of position. And that means who are you putting at third base? Brett Beatty? What? If you're not going to go spend money on Pete Alonso, you're not spending money on Alex Bregman. So you're putting someone like Brett Beatty at third and Mark Vientos at first. It's a far cry from Pete Alonso just being your corner infielder, hitting you 30, 40 home runs. You now have a rookie, a sophomore who's playing out of position, and a guy who is the definition of a quadruple A player in Brett Beatty, who's going to crush in the minors for the rest of his life. And every time he gets called up, he just can't get the job done. And that's what you're going to couple along with, Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor. Again, it's not like Pete Alonso is going to make this franchise. He's not going to break this franchise. But I'm not comfortable rolling in with that lineup. It's better than it was because you basically just think, okay, we're replacing Pete Alonso's production with the production of Juan Soto. That's a big upgrade. But it's a better upgrade if you keep all things the same. An offense that, when it's hot, carried them through September and into the NLCS and prove that they could hang with anyone and hit the clutch home runs and sustain the rallies and all that. And then you just add Juan Soto to that. It's a very big difference. Then, okay, well, subtract this, add that, you come out a little bit ahead. So the Mets are not really in a position to be, turning their backs as well. I understand they think more long-term. This is more about building a machine that has sustained success. But it ain't exactly like they're in a spot to just be like, we don't need you. That's why it still makes sense for both sides. And I swear to fucking God, it's just Scott Boras being in the middle, being a complete asshole. You have an unaware, a client with zero self-awareness, an asshole agent, and a team that is, thinking long-term. It is a disaster for Pete Alonso. And that's where you need to step in and just be like, fuck all of this shit. Never mind. I'm just thinking right now about my happiness for the next couple years, me and my family. I want to be in New York. I want to be with these fans. I'm still going to make relatively the same money that's out there. It's a far cry from what you thought you were going to make, but you need to just accept that reality. Add all of that up. It's the New York Mets. And the New York Mets are like, we want to make a run now. We're not sitting around waiting. Our window is now with a few of the players we have. You need all the help you can get. It's more on Pete Alonso to have this realization than the Mets, but I think both sides come into some sort of terms. It's best for everybody involved. But my God, Pete Alonso, you cannot think that sticking it to Cohen and Stearns to go, like, you're not sticking it to them by being like, oh yeah, fuck you, I'm going to go be irrelevant. It's not like you're like, I'm going to Philadelphia and I'm going to haunt you for the next 5 years. You're out of sight, out of mind, making less money, doing nothing. That's not a battle that you've won. You're not proving anything to anybody. You are just making yourself miserable out of ego and pride. And right now that feels smart. And I know, listen, I've been in spots where I'm like, fuck it, I don't care, no way. And then you're like, that was wrong, because now I'm kind of miserable. Everything's back to the way it was. Everything's equal, all the same, and I'm just not happy. So making a decision now when you're all fired up, making the wrong one, is going to come back to haunt you.